Hi, this is Allison Villars, again with In the Loop. I'm the Director of Health and Human Services here in St. Tammany Parish Government, and we are really happy today to have Dr. Chuck Preston, who is the coroner for St. Tammany Parish, and he's going to talk to us about some issues and precautions we need to take around swimming pools and water. So, Dr. Preston, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I want to know a little bit more about you. I mean, I've worked with you in the past, but I don't know everything. So how did you decide to become a doctor?
Well, I say I got the bug as a teenager. I volunteered in a hospital at East Jefferson Hospital, and I started to work in the x-ray department, which gave me patient contact. And being immersed in that clinical environment, I just became infected, and I knew there was nothing else I could possibly do than become a physician.
So you grew up in Metairie or New Orleans?
Well, I grew up in Metairie during my first 2 years of high school, and then into New Orleans East for my junior and senior year, and went to college at Northwestern State in Natchitoches, and then medical school at LSU in New Orleans, and trained in emergency medicine at Charity Hospital.
And why did you pick emergency medicine?
You know, I really picked it because it was the kind of thing that you think of as doctors doing. It was everything. So we took care of babies in the womb to grandmothers before the tomb. We did medicine, we did surgery, we did pediatrics. Just virtually everything was within the scope of emergency medicine.
And your shifts were long.
And our shifts were long. They were either 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And that's why when I had children, I opened Doctor's Urgent Care, because the shifts there were 9 to 6.
So you did open that establishment on your own?
I did. I opened it with my partner, Dr. Wade Stopenall. And both of us were in the position where we now had wives and children, and we wanted to be able to spend our nights at home with our children.
So one more question about who you are and how you got
Sure.
here. How did you decide to run for coroner?
Well, I had retired from medicine, and that was a conscious decision that my wife and I had made many years ago, and so we lived very frugally and saved money so that we would be in a position to retire. And frankly, the race came up, and people started coming up to me and saying, "Have you looked at this race? Do you know what the coroner does?" This is emergency medicine with administration rolled in. And so my experience in the emergency room with death investigation and mental health and sexual assault, and then my experience running a private business just seemed like a good fit. So I said I really started with very low aspirations. All I wanted was to bring the office to a point where the news media no longer refers to it as the embattled coroner's office. And I think we've successfully done that.
I think so too. It's a pleasure to work with you, Dr. Preston.
Thank you.
So you're here today to point out some issues that we have going on in St. Tammany Parish and in the state of Louisiana regarding water safety for children in particular, but everybody. So will you tell us what you know about that?
Well, it's very concerning. You know, water safety is something that really is all about vigilance, and it's about having people paying attention to make sure that people in swimming pools, in open water, and even in bathtubs at home, that small children, particularly under the age of 4, in 2014 to 2016, Louisiana was leading the nation in drowning deaths. And it is the second leading cause of death under age 14. And so I'm hoping to bring some awareness to people that first, you have to protect the pool. And second, you need to teach children to swim. In addition to that, you need to use Coast Guard approved flotation devices to protect them when they're in that water. And then most of all, you've got to have an adult who has no other function than to watch the children in the pool. I'll tell you that I was at a crab boil recently, and there were children in the pool, and I was very excited to see that there was one adult in the pool watching the children and 2 adults on either side of the pool, and all they did was keep their eye on the kids in the pool. Because drowning happens so quickly and so quietly, and it's very easy for us to lose a child. And there is, of course, no greater tragedy than the loss of a child. And it just leaves ripples of devastation. Marriages break up. People have horrible mental health consequences because they always feel like there's something they could have done. And of course, the real answer is it's all in prevention. It's all in trying to pay attention and making sure that the child isn't put in peril from the very beginning.
So are the precautions different for younger children versus older kids under 14?
Well, I think that the idea of having somebody, an adult, designated to watch those children are universal. Okay. Certainly the younger the child, the more concerning it is, and the more concerning that you have to have super high vigilance. And I mean, you cannot turn your back on that child for a minute. And we've had cases where a child is being bathed and the mother goes to answer a phone and she comes back and the child's face down in 6 inches of water and drowns from it. And so particularly when there's a pool party, it's very easy to get tied up into the social milieu and to be distracted, but that's why we really need designated pool watchers who are doing nothing but keeping their eye on a pool with a phone in their hand so that if an emergency happens, they can call 911. They need to know the exact address of where they are. And of course, if they also have rescue skills in terms of CPR, then that's going to increase the chance of survivability.
Well, you brought some props with you. Will you tell us about them and where they came from and how other people can get them?
I sure did. These came from the Child Death Review Panel for Region 9 of the DHH. One of these is a reference for poolsafely.gov, which is a website which has a number of different resources that folks can go to and get additional resources. And then this is a really nice thing. This is a lanyard that designates who the pool watcher is. And on the back it says, "This is a designated pool watcher. I will watch the children in the pool and never leave them unattended. I will regularly scan the bottom of the pool. I will avoid poolside chats and talking on the phone. I will keep a phone at the pool for emergency use and know the address of where I am. I will call 911 and follow the advice to administer CPR, and I will locate and learn to use all pool safety equipment." And again, I think that this is just an amazing thing because we've been on calls where everybody else thought somebody else was doing the watching. And it's unfortunate that they will come into the house and then they'll notice that the child is missing and start and look around, and that's another tip. The first place they need to look is in the water and see if that child is in there and get them out and start to resuscitate them after they've called 911.
So if I'm a water watcher, a pool watcher, and I have one of these lanyards, when I can't, like I have to excuse myself to go to the restroom, I have to find someone else to take this on.
Exactly right.
And they need to know all of the things on the back, correct? Not
Correct.
just take this. You know, I thought it was really interesting. My sister went to a store locally and bought a pool because her grandchildren were coming, 7 and 3. It's a hardcore pool, and she has a small deck on the side, so she put it there. And then when the kids were ready, they put water in it, not before, which I was very pleased about. But I saw this, it wasn't a beautiful lanyard like this, but it was a little string lanyard. It had a little thing. I kept saying, what is that hanging on the wall? And eventually I got her attention before the boys went out, and she said, well, it's a pool watcher thing. It came with the pool. And I thought, well, how cool is that? So I learned about this before I actually got here to talk to you, Dr. Preston, and it was nice that the production people in a manufacturing facility somewhere on the planet actually packaged that with it. So.
Well, that's an important part of trying to get this message out, and that's why I'm happy to be here. I will share a quick story with you that we had a pool in our backyard, and I have 2 daughters, and we always taught them that there's a fence around the pool that they couldn't open, and so it took an adult to open and let them in, but they were always taught that they must wear their Coast Guard approved flotation device when inside that fence. And one day, in a split second, my daughter pushed a chair against that fence which couldn't be climbed, and she jumped over the fence, and thank God she put on her life vest before she got into the water, and within a minute we found her floating face up in the pool. So no matter how vigilant you are, children can disappear in a moment, and so it's very, very important to teach them to swim and to teach them to use those life-saving flotation devices.
Well, a lot of people don't like how they look or how they feel, so what do you tell those people?
I'd rather be uncomfortable and alive.
And rather have your children
And rather have my children.
uncomfortable and alive.
And I have a picture of my daughter with a life vest on a boat with the maddest looking face I've ever seen, and I cherish that picture because now she's still here at 22 years old and is here to complain about it.
That's great. So are there any other tips you want to give to people about swimming? Do you know the things that they have to have around the pool and how tall the fences need to be, or do I need to talk to somebody else about
Well,
that?
the fences should be at least 4 feet tall. They should be self-locking or difficult to unlock so that only an adult could get them. And swimming lessons from very early on are just critical because, of course, one of the best ways to prevent drowning is to be able to swim. And if they can swim well enough to get to the side and hold on to the pool, they can call for help or work their ways to the step.
And it's not even just for, good swimmers can get in trouble too.
Absolutely right.
Particularly when there's a lot
Absolutely
of people around. Kids jump on top of one another without knowing that that's what they're doing because somebody's swimming underwater and all of a sudden, so we got to watch for those good swimmers too.
And of course, a whole nother topic is diving accidents and how devastating a diving accident can be. There's probably no safe way to dive into an above the ground pool, and even in in-ground pool they usually have a shallow end and a deep end, and diving into the deep end can result in cervical spine injuries and paralysis, and it's just tragic. So it's also important that we educate children about diving safety.
Okay. So any other tips you want to give to us in St. Tammany Parish who cherish our coroner?
Well, my tip would be pass the information around. For everybody who's learned something today, tell a neighbor. Tell your friends who have pools. Designate somebody to be the pool watcher. And just like you said, if the pool watcher has to excuse themselves, make sure that you have another sober adult who is going to take over that responsibility and that they understand the gravity of that role.
Okay. Well, I'm going to thank y'all for watching this section of In the Loop. We'll be back in a little bit. But I would recommend that if you don't have one of these, you might get your kids around a table to make one for you and put a lanyard on it and use that until you can get one from Pool Safely, which is at what address?
It is www.poolsafely.gov.
Okay, and we'll put that on the screen for you. So thank you very much, Dr. Preston. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Drownings are a leading cause of death for young children. Make sure kids learn how to swim. Always watch them in and around water and properly fence all pools. Simple steps save lives. To learn some new ones, visit poolsafely.gov.
Hi, this is Allison Villars, Director of Health and Human Services. We're back for the second section of In the Loop today, and I have Mallory with me, and I'm practicing her last name, so I hope I say it correctly. Danos.
Yeah, that's right.
Danos. Good, I got it. Okay, so Mallory, you're with the Y, correct?
Yes,
and so we want to learn a little bit about you before we get into what you do with the Y. So tell me where you grew up and where you went to school.
So I grew up primarily in Folsom, and I went to school all the Folsom, so Folsom Elementary, Folsom Junior High. Then I went to Covington High, and then I finally graduated from New Orleans University in college.
When did you graduate?
I graduated last semester, or not last semester, last year. in 17, yeah.
17,
17,
last
yeah.
year. Uh-huh.
Last year.
Uh-huh. Well, that's great. And what did you major in when you were there?
I was a film major when I was there.
And why did you choose film?
I chose film because when I was growing up, I was really interested in how movies were made, all the production behind it. I really loved listening to the director and say, oh, this happened because of this and how that all went into play. And I really loved making stories up when I was little. So that seemed like the best path when I was going to choose a college, which school would be better suited for film and how I can learn to make stories and further go on with that.
Mm-hmm. And you're not doing that right now?
No, ma'am, I'm not. I'm with the Y right now.
Okay, so maybe you could do something for the Y in relation to put a film together for them.
Maybe, and we've thought about it and talked about it in the past, but with the water program, I'm the aquatics coordinator there, and I'm very in love with what I'm doing right now, that it's hard for me to go to my other passion as well. Mm-hmm. So finding a two and putting them together, it's possibly in the future, but just not right now with the path.
Well, it's nice that you know who you are and what you want at this point in time. So when did you start with the Y?
I started with the Y roughly 3.5 years ago.
And what were you doing then when you started?
I was lifeguarding, so I was hired on as a lifeguard to lifeguard for the pool there, and it just kind of went up as I stayed there.
Okay, so talk to me about how you became a lifeguard. What did you have to do to become one?
Okay, so I originally was a senior in high school when I became a lifeguard, and I saw a flyer on the walls that said, be a lifeguard for the summer. I got the paper, I called the number, and I originally was a Red Cross lifeguard. And I learned the skills, and I did that for a few summers, and then when I came to the Y, I transferred over to the Y program, so I became a Y lifeguard instead. It's for the most part, they coincide. There's a few little differences between the Red Cross and the Y lifeguarding skills, but that's just with in-water breathing, but I think Red Cross teaches that now as well. So.
Okay, so that's a very fascinating topic you just brought up, but we're going to talk about some other things before we do that. So how many lifeguards do you all have at the Y now?
At the Y, during the summer, our numbers go up, so we have more lifeguards right now. I would say we have about 25 lifeguards altogether staff-wise, but on the pool deck we have 5 with camp. When camp's not there, we have 4 lifeguards.
Okay, and are they positioned in different places around the pool?
Yes, ma'am. We do have a rotation that we do. So our pool is a rectangle. It's mainly lap lanes, but we do have it for open swim, and we have a slide pool to the side where kids can go down the slide and enter a little pool there. So we have one guard, what we call a roving guard, so they walk around the pool. On one side of the pool, we do have a stand on the other side of the pool where we have a guard there, and we do have a lifeguard positioned at the slide pool. And our 4th guard is our break guard, also our swim test guard and stuff like that.
Okay, and what's the swim test guard about?
So the kids, if they're under the age of 12, or the lifeguards kind of play it by ear, seeing how their ability to swim, and they have to take a swim test in order to go to the deep end. If not, they do have to wear a Coast Guard approved life jacket or be with mom practicing their skills.
Okay, that's a great thing. Have y'all been doing that for a long time?
We've been doing it as long as I've been there, and I'm pretty sure it was there in place before. So, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we're talking about lifeguards, so let's finish off that. If somebody wanted to become a lifeguard, a young person, an older person right now, what would they do?
So we do have classes at the Y, both at Covington's and other Y facilities where we train you to be a lifeguard. They're held throughout the year, so you just have to look into that. You can go to the website or call a Y facility and find out when they're having their lifeguarding class.
And so what is the website?
The website is ymcaneworleans.org.
ymcaneworleans.org.
Yes,
correct? Okay. And so even though it's New Orleans, you can get to the Y in Covington.
Yes, ma'am.
Does it have a specific name? West?
West St. Tammany is what we go by, or if you need to, you can go to Google and type in Covington YMCA and we pop right up.
Okay, cool. So if I wanted to be a lifeguard, I just have to take a class?
There's a class, and there is a physical part of the class that you have to pass in order to do the rest. We go through the class, we teach you the skills that you need to learn after you've done the physical part, which is you swim a few laps in the pool, you tread water for a while, and you do a few compressions. It's a physical part, and then you go through the class where either I or another instructor teaches you the steps of this is how you do this rescue, this is what you do once you're at the pool, things like that. There is a written test. You do also get CPR certified, first aid certified, and oxygen certified. And then there is also a physical part where we do a scenario. If something was to happen, we see if you are able to react properly to saving someone if need be.
And so can parents take this?
Yes, ma'am. The age is 16 and up. So as long as you're 16 years old, you can get certified at the Y.
So this is a good idea for maybe parents to look at
Yes, ma'am.
to see about safety. So at your pool, we're using your pool, the Y pool as an example. Do you have things, actual physical equipment that would help in a rescue?
Yes, ma'am. We have the AED, which is the automatic defibrillator that we have in case of emergency that you would place on someone's chest if they would have a heart attack or if you can't find a pulse
Okay.
when you're giving a rescue. We also have other things like the manual suction device if someone was to pass out and was to vomit. And we also have a bag mouth mask, which helps give air if need be.
Okay. And do you have something to reach with if someone?
Yes, ma'am. We do have a shepherd's crook, I believe. And we also do have a throwing buoy as well. So the ring that you see on the boats and all the movies that you throw out and bring to someone. We do have that as well. And the lifeguards do carry around their buoy as well.
Okay. So the idea of those things is to keep the lifeguard out of the pool.
Yeah, that's the idea, but we can't always avoid jumping in. So,
But if you jump in with something so
Yes,
that
ma'am.
you and the person are different. And why would that be? Why would I want to keep some distance away from somebody I'm rescuing?
because sometimes when you're rescuing someone, they're disoriented, they're not really sure what they're grabbing on, and you don't want to put yourself in danger when rescuing someone else. My lifeguards are taught to assess the scene, so check the scene, make sure it's safe. Go ahead, jump in, make the save, and if they're going to grab for you, you can always push your tube underneath them. That way they have something to float on there above the water. They can catch their breath, and you can back up away from them and then pull them, tote them to shore, and just encourage them to hold onto the tube. That's if they're alert and awake, of course, while the drowning process is happening.
Okay. So there used to be a little ditty that people would talk about. So reach,
Throw, don't go. And that's what we teach to our children for swim lessons. So when we're having swim lessons, we teach our kids, all right, so reach, throw, don't go. So that means you can lay down, have like a noodle or a tube or something like that, reach for your friend if for some reason there's not a lifeguard or parent watching, and you can pull them in. You don't want to go and get them. We teach them to anchor themselves to the ground, which basically means lay down on the ground and hold it out. But if they're too far out where that's not going to reach, we throw it out to them, grab the flotation device, and then encourage them to kick to shore.
Okay, that's great news. So let's go to happier things.
Okay.
So what's the youngest child you guys would take on to teach how to swim?
Okay, so it's a bit of a hard question because we do have swim lessons for mommy and me,
Okay.
which is from 0 to about 2. We have the mom and the child in the water, and it's just getting them used to the water, not so they're not scared about it, and teaching them, okay, so we don't go to the water unless mommy's with us or something to that effect. We teach them if they fall in to float or to grab the wall, so things like that.
So that's 0 to 2.
0 to 2.
What's the youngest child you've ever seen swim?
Actually swim about a 2-year-old.
Okay.
The 0 and the 1-year-olds are more splashing in the water, floating, things like that. We do try to teach as much safety as we can to them that they will retain, but it's more, mommy and me classes are more so for mommy to teach them about dry drownings and stuff like that, or hypothermia or anything like that.
Okay, so you said another word, dry drownings. So
Yes.
can you tell me what that means?
Okay, dry drowning is, so you've gone and had a day at the pool, you had fun, and it's when children go home, they seem perfectly fine, they lay down, take a nap, and when they lay down and take a nap, the water they've got in their stomach comes up and then goes into their lungs while they're sleeping, and they drown while they're on dry land.
And how do you prevent that?
So it's more so keeping an eye on the children. You don't want to dunk them underwater, and you can keep an eye on it by seeing if their belly's extended and things like that. If they're coughing up a lot of water, okay, let's take a break and sit to the side, catch our breath. Maybe we need to be done with the pool today, and just monitoring the child afterwards, making sure they don't take on a lot of water.
Okay, well that is something that I didn't know, and I've been on the planet a long time, so I'm happy you shared that with us. So I think that's really good information for parents to have. Okay, so you have mommy and me. Could be daddy and me too?
It could be daddy and me. We have a lot of daddies that come with the babies.
Okay, so you have that, and what would be the next step?
The next step, we have water acclimation, which is for our 3 to 5-year-olds. And again, that's getting them used to, it's when the kid's scared of the water and they don't want to put their face in the water. It's encouraging them to get used to the water. The water's not a scary place. We don't want a kid to be scared of water, but we also want them to be safe. So we teach them water safety and not being scared. We also start teaching them things like front glide, our kicks, things like that.
And what age group is that typically?
That's about 3 to 5. We also have that for older children as well, for 6 to 12 years old as well. Anything above that we do have adults that sometimes need to have some swim lessons as well, and we have private lessons for that.
So adults don't want to learn in a group?
For the most part, we haven't had the numbers, but if we would have the numbers of adults saying, hey, I want to be in a group, that we could possibly start that program at the Y as
So
well.
one of the things you would want to have parents do is that they would know how to swim. That would be a safety thing for them.
Yes, ma'am.
So it would take care of them in the water too. And do adults get in trouble in water?
Yes, ma'am. Adults get, you mean like danger-wise, like they need help, or like you shouldn't do that with the lifeguard correcting them danger?
All of the above.
Okay, so yes, adults do get in trouble with the water. They sometimes realize they've gone too deep. I'm with my kid. We've gone too deep. I need help. That's when the lifeguard steps in, if there is one present. If not, then we encourage parents to have the child in a life jacket, and if they need to swim towards shore, they can. Parents do also sometimes throw their kids, dunk their kids into water, and we do discourage that at the Y with our lifeguards. We try to encourage them to focus on swimming and not so much dunking and stuff like that, because then the child can get water into their bellies and so what, and then a dry drowning might occur.
Okay. So after 12, do you actually do swim lessons where they learn and perfect their strokes?
Well, we do have that for 3 to 5 years old and 6 to 12 years old as well.
Okay.
It's stage 2. We go through 2 to 4, and stage 2 is water movement. It's when we learn to move our arms and our legs and float and like going distance-wise. Then we have water stamina, which is building your strength, going further, and then we have stroke development, which is when we perfect our strokes. That's when we used to get to swim team, really.
Okay, and so you have a swim team?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about the swim team.
So we have a swim team at the Y. I know a lot of Ys do, and right now we have 60 kids in the swim team, and a lot of our swim team kids come from our swim lessons. So they get to a stage where they want to do more, they want to perfect it more. So we encourage swim team that puts them on a team where they can learn leadership skills and stuff like that.
Okay, so if somebody wants to know about all of what's going on at a particular time, how are they going to find out?
At a particular time, they can call our YMCA, or they can go to the website.
And what's the number of the Y? Do you know?
No, okay.
We know it's 985.
Yes, 985.
So we'll put it on the screen so people can know. Okay, and so the website again is?
The website again is ymcaneworleans.org.
And if they go there, they can get to the West St. Tammany Y, and they'll be able to see classes that are going on at that time.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so say your name again so everybody knows that you're the
I'm the aquatics
coordinator for the Y in Covington.
Yeah, so I'm Mallory Danos, and I'm the aquatics coordinator at the YMCA in Covington.
And if you want to be safe and swim, this is one of the places to hang out in the summer and during the winter too. The pool's open in the winter.
Yes, ma'am. Our pool is actually open year round. So we have a heated pool, and it's very nice. So if you have lap swimmers or anyone like that would like to come swim at the Y, feel more than welcome to come swim.
Mallory, thank you so much for joining us. You gave us a lot of good information, and we very much appreciate it. This is Allison Villars. We're signing off for In the Loop today. Glad you could join us and be safe around water.